Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Rampage and welcome to Rampage Reviews Borderlands the pre-sequel for PC. Borderlands the pre-sequel is a first-person shooter action role-playing game developed by 2K Australia in association with Gearbox Software and published by 2K Games. The pre-sequel is on PS3, Xbox 360, OS X, Mac, Linux, SteamOS, and PC.
110, forbidding unlicensed interplay between... Oh my god! You stole my girlfriend, you meatbag! Open this door!
The game starts by showing a cutscene with Athena being captured by Lilith, who is accompanied by Mordecai and Brick, previous characters from the series, back on Pandora. It's not yet known how Athena ends up in this position or how she ties into the main narrative at this point. However, it would appear that 2K Australia wants Athena to be the main character regardless of who you choose, which kind of defeats the purpose of actually choosing a character, doesn't it? The overall narrative is set in between the first and second games, but the main plot for the pre-sequel depicts a journey described by Athena about the development of Handsome Jack's slow, evil spiral into the menace we know from Borderlands 2.
Violence, insanity, and a hero.
This takes place throughout the game and is essentially the only story element that really matters. It was a shame to see the game's story basically being treated the same way as previous Borderlands games, i.e. not much to show for the hours of gameplay he put into it. There wasn't much to the story other than that, but if you're not playing Borderlands for the story, you may like the alterations to the combat system and gameplay mechanics 2K Australia added this time around. In the pre-sequel, the player has the option to choose from 4 completely new characters: Wilhelm the Enforcer, Athena the Gladiator, Nisha the Lawbringer, and Claptrap as the Mistake. Me personally, I think Claptrap's probably the best playable character. Granted, there are also DLC characters such as Jack Doppelganger, which is essentially Handsome Jack's doppelganger, which you can buy for $9.99 USD, or Aurelia Baroness for $13.99 USD. I'm unaware of who this character is or why I should even spend money on her. When you choose Claptrap, 2K decided it would be a good idea to make a little joke out of it by trying to encourage the player to change their choice. This was funny and all for the first time, but there's like 3 or 4 dialogue screens. It kind of gets old after a while. Now onto the actual gameplay. Generally the gameplay is identical to that of Borderlands 2, with a few changes to the base mechanics that made Borderlands unique. The noticeable mechanics or gameplay changes that are tweaked or added are as follows. Elemental weapons have a nice improvement, especially with ice or freeze based weapons, which allows the player to freeze an enemy and shatter them if their health is low enough, which provides a nice feeling when you accomplish that. Due to the game taking place mostly on the moon of Pandora, and for the lack of a better description, a low gravity environment, this allows the player to jump slightly higher and leap further than you typically would, which is fun to play around with. You can also get some epic aerial kills, which is quite awesome. The oxygen meter is a new mechanic that was added to the game, which is a secondary resource for all characters apart from Claptrap. Due to him being a robot, he doesn't require or need any oxygen tanks. However, the oxygen can be gathered and used as a jump boost for all characters, but is quickly depleted each time you use it. Oxygenated barriers is a new gameplay mechanic which allows the player to deploy temporary breathable areas in between objectives. However, I didn't play with anyone other than Athena or Claptrap, so I am unclear as to if any of the other characters can manually deploy them, but that would be cool. Driving around is always fun in Borderlands, but driving the Stingray made everything I previously enjoyed about mucking around with vehicles in Borderlands and expanded the fun factor for me, although if you are in a low gravity environment, driving up a dune or curved surface for either the buggy or the Stingray didn't seem to launch the vehicle as much as I had expected, without using the Stingray's jump ability of course. The player also has the ability to use a slam attack, which allows you to quickly rappel back down to the ground if you're floating further away than you would like, or you can simply deal damage to nearby enemies, which actually comes in handy, surprisingly. However, the gameplay in terms of mission objective variety, at least for the start of the game, seems like the developer didn't know what to add, so they simply added filler. I didn't find Borderlands the pre-sequel compelling enough for me to, play through the entire game because I felt like I'd played it all before. The developers used a visual technique called cell shading for the pre-sequel, which was also used on all the previous games. However, it is clear that this is a chosen style for the developer, so no points taken off in that regard. If I had to complain about the graphics, it would be that some textures don't blend into the environment correctly and are just plain weird looking or completely pixelated. Not cell shaded, just bad looking. I'm not a fan of cell shading, so I wasn't impressed personally with the textures, but my opinions aside, the physics once again is way over the top and causes extreme frame rate lag even on high-end gaming PCs. Near the start of the game it's all fine, but once you get outside and start to blow things up, the frame rate drops significantly and to this day is still not fixed. It's a real shame because I felt that the physics particles in this game looked more believable this time around because they closely resemble the textures within the game rather than some random jelly or completely different texture like the previous game. The other issue that I had with physics was that the color of the particles was slightly different to the texture you shoot, which is kind of weird if you think about it.
Sorry, my best mate in the whole wide world's gone missing, and I could really use some help finding him. I think it was him.
The sound design was also essentially the same, with weapons and explosions sounding great as usual, so nothing to complain about the sound effects. All the good stuff sounded fine. The voice acting on its own was filled with similar sounding bogan Australian accents, which made it harder to determine who was speaking without looking up at the speech box every time. This became quite annoying after a while because it distracted me from the gameplay, which it shouldn't do that.
Looks like he's sleeping. Do you think he's sleeping?
No.
Right. Well, see if he left tonight. Check her pockets, will you?
Now, being an Australian, the voices came off quite offensive in the sense that I felt like 2K thought that just because the game was being developed primarily by the Australian 2K developer, that gave them a free pass to portray Australians in this bogan-like fashion. Newsflash, 2K, I don't sound like any of your characters, so why portray Australians with that accent? Most Aussies don't sound anything like that, so in turn it was depicting Australians in quite a negative light, and could be deemed disrespectful to some, like it was to me. I do wish 2K could have actually taken the time by adding different nationalities in the game rather than mostly Australian. That was kind of off-putting to me. 2K also added loads of Australian sounding or based things within the game or areas. It just was weird. I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Jumbuck, I grabbed him with glee and I shoved him in me tucker bag.
For a mindless adventure shooter, this game is fine. However, the fact that a lot of the game was repeated work or drawn out to the point where I just didn't care for the game or the characters anymore, I think a good way to prevent this in the future, for me personally, would be by adding more variety to the missions by not making them feel like a chore. Also, having characters sound different other than an Aussie accent would have been nice. For me, most of the characters sounded extremely similar to each other, and half the time I would think someone else was talking to me, which became weird and annoying. If you want to make a long RPG style game, at least make the campaign compelling enough for me to play and enjoy. I do understand that a lot of RPG games do this, but it would be nice to steer away from the common formula that has been with Borderlands since the beginning. A full-length game on how Handsome Jack became evil? Guys, this could have been a 3-hour DLC, so yeah, this seemed like a quick cash grab, or just a huge chunk of wasted time which clearly didn't need to be there. Also, the number of poor Aussie accents in this game didn't help bring the score up. By poor, I mean all had similar bogan accents. Change them up at least, jeez. The entire game, besides the reskinned models and environments, seemed like I had played it all before, which was quite a shame because I was looking forward to this game because it had low level gravity elements, however they didn't turn out to be as good as they implied. However, if you do have a group of people that you want to play Borderlands with, this game is fun in that regard, I'm not going to lie there, but the actual gameplay itself, I just felt it was too similar to the previous game, so that is why Borderlands the Pre-Sequel gets a 4 out of 10 from me. For more reviews, check out bargogames.com. My name is Rampage, please don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.